Hello and welcome to a new episode of Geek Lunch Meet. I'm your host Chris, as usual, and in this video I'll be taking a look at the first two episodes of the brand new Monarch Legacy of Monsters series that has just hit Apple TV. Don't forget, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, helps us out a great deal, gets the video seen by a lot more people, and if you're not really subscribed, why not smash that subscribe button. If you're a Godzilla fan, we'll have a lot more kaiju themed videos coming up, with obviously the rest of Monarch, and then we've got Godzilla -1 getting released here in the UK in a few weeks' time. And then, of course, early next year, we've got Godzilla Kong Hidden Empire coming from Legendary as well. Plus the usual news and reviews of all the other geek-related stuff that we love so much. So, Monarch, A Legacy of Monsters, say the first two episodes fit Apple TV. This is, of course, the Legendary TV series based on their MONSTERVERSE movies. And yeah, I've really enjoyed what we've got so far. It's probably easier to say what the series isn't. It's not an out-and-out massive monster bash. If you've seen my previous videos looking at the trailers and the sneak peeks we've had so far, I've said all along I didn't think it was going to be some huge great big monster spectacular. Even with the huge massive budgets that Apple TV and the other streaming services are spending on the content these days, I just couldn't see that we were going to get massive monster action featuring Godzilla every episode. And sure enough, after the first two episodes, the Godzilla action has been quite scarce. So I would say going into it, if that's what you're expecting, so you're going to be disappointed. That's not what we get at all. But so far, what we have got is a very well written, very well developed sort of drama that's giving us characters that we sort of are getting to know and genuinely care about, as we see how they're dealing in a post-Godzilla world, and how the actions of the Monarch organization have affected them and their families over some generations. Because it's called Legacy of Monsters for a reason, and Legacy is very much, so there's lots of families. There's lots of different time periods that we're following, and we're seeing how these family legacies are being affected. The first episode starts off in the 70s on Skull Island, which I love. I said before on the channel, I think Kong Skull Island is probably my favourite of the MONSTERVERSE movies. I love that 70s setting. I love the Vietnam War feeling as well. And we start with John Goodman reprising his role as Bill Randa. And we do get some monster action to begin with the big spidery things that look like with their legs, look like they're in the bamboo forest from Kong Skull Island. Mother Longlegs, I think they're calling them, and a mantle claw apparently is what it's called, like a big rocky crab thing that start having a fight, and so Randa has to escape whilst they're sort of fighting around him. From there we travel back to 1950s to Kazakhstan, and we get our first glimpse of Wyatt Russell as Lee Shaw. And we get to see him with a younger version of Bill Randa as they're just sort of starting their work, sort of building up Monarch from the ground upwards, it would appear. We then flip to the sort of main storyline, which is actually set in 2015 in Tokyo. And we get to see one of the main characters, Kate, played by Anna Sawai. And we discover that her father, who is missing, presumed dead, has been living a double life with two different families, one in America, one in Japan. And of course, living potentially a third life has something to do with Monarch that we've not discovered what he's up to yet. So it's easy to see why they've said it in 2015. So it's like a year after the Gareth Edwards Godzilla movie from 2014. And as far as the world knows, Godzilla is the only Titan that's around. The public still don't know sort of who Monarch are. We haven't got to Godzilla King of the Monsters and all the other Titans appearing, and then Godzilla versus Kong and having all that happen. So it's good because it's all a bit more mysterious. As I say, Godzilla's sort of the only Titan that's made his appearance so far. Also, it helps, obviously, with Kurt Russell playing the older Lee Shaw. Now, with him obviously appearing in the 50s, we're looking to be sort of like, say, late 20s, early 30s. Obviously, that would make, if it was set now in 2023, Kurt Russell's character would be sort of in his sort of mid 90s by now. So another good reason for setting it in 2015. And being set just after a year after G-Day, when Godzilla was sort of revealed to the public and trashed most of San Francisco fighting the Mutos. And it's very fitting as Monarch Legacy of Monsters takes Gareth Edwards' movie. That's very much the feel of it. particularly with showing, the less is more. We didn't get to see a lot of Godzilla in that movie till the end, which I know a lot of people weren't happy with. I didn't mind it so much, and say that's definitely the feeling we're sort of getting from this show. And as I said before, it's also carrying on from Kong Skull Island as well, which obviously I love. So if you're a fan of those first two MonsterVerse movies in particular, I imagine you'll get a big kick out of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. One of the things I particularly like in the first episode is obviously after G-Day, when Kate first arrives in Tokyo to investigate her father's disappearance. There's all signage everywhere showing sort of Godzilla evacuation routes, and then there's some alarms go off and she has to sort of go down into this shelter and wait for the all clear. And it's great to see those little details. It's all sort of fantastic world building stuff. I expect to see those Godzilla evacuation plan sort of signs appearing on t-shirts very shortly, and I'll be very happy to pick one of those up too. After the first two episodes, the only real shots we've had of Godzilla himself are basically in Kate's flashback. She was on the Golden Gate Bridge in G-Day. She was on one of the school buses, and she's definitely suffering from PTSD and keeps getting flashbacks. So that's the only real glimpses we've seen from her memories. Of Godzilla. But as I've said, we have had a small battle between two of the creatures on Skull Island right at the beginning of the first episode, and in the second episode introduces a flying kaiju, a bit like Rodan. But that is really the only two sort of big action scenes that have cropped up so far. Apparently, reviewers who've seen the first 5 episodes say that the action does really pick up from sort of the third episode onwards. So hopefully we are in for a lot more sort of monster action coming up shortly. So Monarch Legacy of Monsters, it's big budget, TV making at its best. It looks very cinematic. You'd happily watch it on the big screen. The Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos on Apple TV are great. If you've got a Dolby Atmos capable sound system, you can really appreciate the surround sound, especially when the monsters are attacking. And as I said, globe trotting, Kazakhstan, Tokyo, Skull Island, the Philippines they're in at one point as well. And from the trailer we saw scenes, it looks like they go out to a desert and up to the Arctic. They're out in the ice at one point. I suspect these may be possibly the Monarch outposts that we saw in Godzilla King of the Monsters. It wouldn't surprise me if Kurt Russell's character is taking them around to these places. And on the subject of Kurt, he's a bit like the elusive Godzilla. He only really turns up right at the end of episode 2. We see a lot more of his son Wyatt and spend a lot more time with him back in the 50s in the first 2 episodes. I am really enjoying the 2 timelines running parallel. I hope they keep that going, and I hope these things sort of converge, and that stuff they do in the past has a direct effect on what's going on in the modern day timeline. I always enjoy stories that have got 2 timelines like that, that are converging and have big ramifications of what happens in the past and how it affects the present timeline. So yeah, that's Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the first 2 episodes. I'm really enjoying it. No, there isn't a massive amount of action. Hopefully we've got more action coming up shortly. Strangely, after dropping the first 2 episodes, this Friday, the next episode is hitting next Wednesday. So I'm assuming from then onwards the remaining episodes are going to be hitting on Wednesdays, which is fine with me. Giant monster action coming sooner is always better. I think there's 10 episodes in total, so that will take us up to the new year. Have you seen the first 2 episodes yet? What did you think? Would you preferred more giant monster action? Or were you happy with the smaller human-based drama that we're getting? Let me know in the comments below. It's always fantastic to hear from you. So, thanks for watching. Take care. Until next time, eat, geek, and be merry.